There are two ways to make a burger. You can spend decades practicing and perfecting your burger. You can pour your heart and soul into every burger you make, always being creative with the ingredients, always innovating and trying to make something you're proud of. Or you can make a fast food burger, where there has to be zero creativity, and it has to be something that can be made by any kid off the street with minimal training and zero passion. And that is a necessity, not an option for scaling. See, tremendous success in business requires that you make the fast food burger. There's just no way to scale the first approach. Even if you end up making the greatest burger in the world, even if every burger you make costs $100 each, you can only make so many burgers, and you will never get anywhere close to the amount of money that an owner of a successful fast food business can generate. This is just the basics of scaling, and there's no avoiding it. So it's not surprising that at the heart of every business book is the idea that you have to make something scalable in business to be very successful, and that's all true. So in some ways, it's weird to blame a business book for telling someone who wants to learn more about business the right thing to do for success in business. But here's the problem. A business book assumes that the reader is obviously reading it because they want to succeed in business, and in order to do that, you have to create something scalable. But in my experience, that assumption can be very wrong. And I don't think a new business owner is many times even aware of what he truly wants. Looking back at myself now and observing so many others, I think a lot of people want to create the first burger. They want to be passionate about something. They want to be creative. They want to create something that they can be proud of. That is what they truly want, and the only reason they even do the business side of things is simply to make a living while they do something that they feel great about. In other words, for a lot of people, business is a means to an end, not the end itself. Now, don't get me wrong, there are also those who are in business for the sake of business, and for those people the advice is spot on. But I think there's a huge chunk of people being given this advice, where if they sat down and analyzed what they truly want, this wouldn't be it. But so many people still follow it because we're so unaware of what we want and what our goals truly are, and that can lead to a lot of misery and unnecessary conflict down the road. Let me give you an example with Fight Mediocrity and how scaling would usually be done. I started doing book summaries years ago, and I used to do everything by myself at first, which is very typical. Once it started to take off, I started to distance myself from it because that's what you have to do to scale. One person can only work so many hours a week. It got to a point where I really didn't have to do anything anymore. The authors of the book started doing the scripts and voiceovers. The animations were done by an animator, and essentially I could completely remove myself at that point by putting in a manager that would just coordinate those two things. And that's pretty much an infinitely scalable approach. Obviously, from one business to another, there are some differences, but that's usually what scaling looks like. But that's when I started feeling not so great about the whole thing. I remember one time starting a great relationship with a very famous business personality and author, and shortly after I got a voiceover from him for animation. It was about a 7-minute long narration, and I was so excited to listen to it. But at the end, I felt so angry and horrible. I had just been sent a 7-minute advertisement for this guy's book. He basically didn't talk about anything of value from the book, which there wasn't much of to begin with, and the whole 7 minutes can be summarized into, if you want to be a gazillionaire, this is the only book you need to buy. Now, I was super into Dale Carnegie back then, so I would write an email when I was angry, but put it away, and then come back to it a couple of days later. And usually you realize it's not quite the best thing to send. But I remember I was so disappointed and angry, because this had already happened a bunch of times with other authors, that it overrode everything, and I sent the email right away, and let's just say it wasn't very nice. Needless to say, I never heard back from the guy, and that bridge was burned. As I've had time to get to know myself more, and start to see more of what I truly want, I've realized that business is always something that I've appreciated. But deep down, at least at this stage of my life, I think all I really want is to make the best thing I can every day. Something that I think is important and I can pour my heart and soul into. Something that I can be proud of, even if that seems like a fleeting thing most days. And I have seen so many people who feel this way. What they really want to do is to wake up excited and make the best burger they can every day, and simply be able to feed themselves while doing it, not create the next McDonald's. So I guess the question to ask yourself and bring some awareness to is, what do you truly want? Maybe you're the guy that loves the business side of seeing the numbers grow every day, like playing a video game, which I'll admit can be super fun. And if that's the case, scaling and the negative aspects of it are the only way to go about doing that. This is not some judgment of what's better either. It's about doing the thing that you truly want, not what somebody else has decided for you. But maybe you identify more with the creative side and want to be able to feed yourself, so you're forced to learn about the business side of things, and that's the only reason you're even reading a business book or seeking business advice. If that's the case, be very careful. Business books and business advice automatically assume that your primary goal is business, and I guess that's not a crazy thing to do. But that assumption is wrong many times, and it will take you down the path of endless disappointment and resentment, and leave you conflicted and unfulfilled.